And instead of like, oh, I got lucky, I was in the right place at the right time, I created the opportunity to be in the right place at the right time because I did extensive research knowing that the Bannon Way was my calling card. Where does this belong? When I actually worked on it, I hadn't even heard of Burn Notice, which is so weirdly coincidental when you look at the styles.
Yeah, that's
And somebody,
weirdly.
they're like, this looks just like Burn Notice. Like, are you ripping off Burn Notice? And I was like, what's Burn Notice? Which, by the way, great SNL sketch. We can put a link in the show notes. Where we're going to begin is kind of the origin story of how you and I met. Mm-hmm. The story of how I got the job on Burn Notice was just kind of a thing that I thought I needed to do, talking about being relentless and being disciplined and never giving up. But according to a lot of my readers and followers and my students, it's now become kind of a legend. And I've told the story several times from my perspective. I had Steve Lang on. He told his side of the story to understand how do I build relationships and get in front of the right people. But I've never actually heard your specific side of the story. And I want people to understand your side of the story because there are so many people listening that are stuck between a rock and a hard place where they know they have the skills to do it, but they don't have the credits or the experience, and somebody needs to give them a shot. So walk me through, to the best of your recollection, how you were first introduced to me.
Well, basically the Bannon Way that you had edited showed up kind of in our offices. And as I recall, Steve Lang had our editor on Burn Notice, kind of the lead editor on Burn Notice. He had taken a look at it and was like, oh, hey, you should check this out. And then I forget if it went from Alfredo Barrios, who was an executive producer on the show, to Steve, or from Steve to Alfredo, but it kind of came up a few times, and it was I just remember it sitting on someone's desk. And then we were talking about bringing on another editor, and basically between Steve and Alfredo, it was like, oh, you got to look at this. This guy totally gets it. It's exactly what we need. And I was like, okay, it's kind of rare to see something come in with that much polish and that much, and that was sort of that specifically, it was specifically in the zone for what we needed. And yeah, so I took a look at it, and I did not watch the whole thing. I think I watched like 5 minutes, and I was like, oh yeah, okay, there we go. Okay, perfect. Right. And I think for us, part of it was just that, as you well know, like on Burn Notice, we were doing a lot of big action, but it wasn't like you had every shot you could ever imagine, and you were able to cut every possible thing in, there was a degree of, you had to dive into the outtakes and the dumpster diving, and you had to reverse the shot, and you had to like figure out a weird, like a stock shot you could cut to get out of the thing. Like there were all of these, there was a lot of innovation, and like the big thing that I used to say to writers and stuff on that show is like, we are here to force this to work. Like, there's no, like, the answer can never be, yeah, we just didn't get it, right? We got something, right? We are making something. We are going to force this. We're going to torture this footage until it turns into what we need it to turn into. And sometimes that required rewriting. Sometimes that required, but it always required a lot of attention from the editors. And so that was definitely Steve's kind of approach and attitude. And it just happened that I was like, okay, yeah, this is highly polished, was clearly not made with an enormous budget. This is a guy who knows how to torture footage until it turns into something, cool.